guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a bit of an undertaking. I did it once on my channel about a year ago, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about every single book that is currently on my physical TBR. There are so many, less than 100, which I'm happy that it's less than 100, but I think when I did this video last year I had like 55, and now I'm up to like closer to 80. I do have like 6 or 7 books currently in Amazon packages because I do plan to do like a unboxing, if you will, but I'm waiting. There's 2 books that are being released on August 29th, I think, and I pre-ordered them, so I'll get them August 30th, so I'm gonna film then. So there are still like probably 7 to 10 books that I'm not sharing with you guys today. There will be a few books that I recently purchased or purchased within the last like 2 months or so. I opened my windows because I wanted some fresh air, but I should have known. It's too loud on my street. I also told myself that if I filmed this video, like once I finish filming this video, I'll allow myself to go get my first pumpkin coffee drink of the year. And we just need to get through this so I can go get my pumpkin coffee. Also, can we take a minute, since we're talking about random stuff, to like really just love and appreciate the new blanket that I got? I am truly obsessed. I love a black and white checkered. Got it off Amazon, obsessed. It reminds me of my Vans shoes, which I love so much. Anyway, you guys, not to go off on a million other tangents, today we're going to be talking about every single book on my physical TBR. There are about 10 books that are newer, like I purchased in the last like probably 6 to 8 weeks, that I also plan to share in the like unbox with me video. So it'll be a little bit of a spoiler for that, but whatever, it is what it is. If you guys are interested in seeing the books on my current physical TBR, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's get into all the books on my current physical TBR. Okay guys, I started specifically at my cart because I feel like I've talked to you guys about these books over and over and over again, so I'm gonna go through them super quickly. Also, if you guys have, let me know what's on the top of your TBR to be read. Physical TBR to read. Am I making any sense? Probably not. Okay. I have talked about these books, like I said, quite a bit on my channel recently, so I'm gonna go through them really quickly. A lot of these are like summer books that I purchased because I was getting in the mood to read again, and I wanted to like set the scene for summer, and I have not been motivated to read any of these books since purchasing them. I have just not been in the mood for romance ever since reading Fourth Wing. I've been like wanting something different. So I've been purchasing a lot of fantasy romance, fantasy books, which I'm so excited for the fall, but I've been trying to like force myself to read a few summer romances before the end of the season, and it's not going well. It's not going well. Anyway, the books that I have from Jennifer Weiner, I have The Summer Place, as well as from Emily Henry, her newest Happy Place. I do really want to read at least Happy Place and one of the Jennifer Weiner books that I purchased. I also have Same Time Next Summer. This is by Annabelle Monaghan, and I recently read the final something script, Nora Goes Off script, which I loved. And this is a shorter book. Maybe I will get myself to read this. I'm going up north, no, down south this coming weekend, so maybe I'll get myself to read that book or bring it with me. I also have The Kiss Quotient, another romance, One Italian Summer, which I did start and did like a soft DNF for this. I just could not get myself into that, so that's still on my TBR. And then I also have That Summer from Jennifer Weiner as well. A couple more. I have Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which I feel like I'm going to like carry into, like I'm going to include this on my fall TBR cart because I feel like I am still excited for this one, and I feel like this could really, like, this doesn't have to be a summer read. Not that anything really has to be like a seasonal read, but I feel like I could get away with this being a fall read. Also, I don't know what happened like right here. My makeup's looking so muddy, but ignore that little spot if you're seeing it. Summer Broken Rules. I am looking to bring this with me this weekend and hopefully bust through this one because I purchased this towards the end of summer last year and wanted to read it, then I didn't, so I told myself I would read it this summer and I haven't yet, so I really want to get through like at least these 2 this year. I also have Funny You Should Ask, which isn't necessarily like a summer read, but maybe I'll pick that one up next winter. I don't know. Then I have The Last Mrs. Parrish, which is a thriller, so I can get away with this one in the fall too. And I actually have thought about picking this one up. I don't know, I do get nervous about thrillers. Like, am I gonna be too scared to read it? A couple more from my cart. I have it Ghosted, which is like a newer to my collection, and I do feel like I can carry this one into the fall as well. Like, this doesn't necessarily have to be just like summer specific to me. As well as Heard It in a Love Song, I feel like this is giving, like, even the cover is kind of giving me like fall atmosphere, like a fall sort of fall vibes. And this one isn't super long either, so perhaps this one will stay on the cart for like a fall read, but haven't gotten around to that yet. I have Rock Bottom Girl by Lucy Score. I am looking to continue on in the Nakama series as well. I read, what is it, Things We Never Got Over, and I needed a little bit of a break. I had hyped that book up so much and I was a little bit disappointed in it, but I think I'm ready to return to the series, and I think book 3 is coming out soon, and that is Lucian's story, and I'm like very intrigued to read his story. So I need to also read, I forget, is it Things We Hide from the Light? Is that the one that's coming out? And what's book 2? I probably will buy that soon. I have Allie Hazelwood's Love on the Brain. Haven't felt motivated to reach for that. This one from Lucy Foley, I have The Invitation. This has been now on my TBR for over a year, so I feel like the chances of me picking this up are growing slimmer and slimmer. I just have not been motivated to reach for that. I also have the book Thank You for Listening, which I think I picked up last like October-ish. I'm just not feeling romances right now. And then I also have this like self-help, not self-help, what do they call it? Self-improvement self-improvement books. This is by Jenny Allen. It's Get Out of Your Head, and I do kind of want to pick this up. It's Stop the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. I do want to pick this up again. This had been like buried on my shelves, and so I put it on my cart to like put it to the forefront of my mind, but also haven't felt like sitting down to do the work and reading this book. So we'll see if I get around to this, but those are all the things that were currently on my summer TBR cart. Now we're gonna move into a different shelf, and I'll share with you some other books that are currently on my physical TBR. Okay, rather than going into a different room and like moving my camera and lighting, I just had to just bring a large stack of books right here. So also on my TBR, I have Bad Reputation by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I believe this is following maybe some of the children from the Calloway Sisters Addicted series, and I really wanted this cover, and I know that they've been going through like making new covers for the entire Addicted series, so I didn't want to miss out on potentially getting this cover, which is why I purchased this, even though I still have a couple books left to finish in the Addicted Calloway Sister series. And I believe this is 2 books like in one, I think, but I forget what they're called. I'm not sure, but I have these but I have this book. Then I have Fuel the Fire, also by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I still need to read Addicted. Is it Addicted After All? I'm looking at my, yes, Addicted After All, which again, new cover. You literally can't get a physical copy. I do have it downloaded on my Kindle, but haven't gotten around to reading it. And then after that, I will be on to Fuel the Fire. I don't know if I'll finish this series this year. I would love to. I just don't know if that's totally realistic. We will see. I feel like anytime I go read the Addicted series that I'm in a reading slump for like months after. So it like scares me to read it. I know I love reading it, but then like the aftermath is what scares me. I have this one from Mariana Zapata, All Roads Lead Here. This does give me very like fall vibes. I don't know if it's like the cover or what. I've never read a Mariana Zapata book, but I'm very excited to hopefully pick this one up this fall. I believe it's small town, like maybe second chance romance. I think it's like single mom. So super excited to read that. Also, I have Christina Lauren, Love in Other Words. I meant to read this last fall and never got around to it. I feel like this is so many people give this 5 stars. So I definitely do want to get around to reading this one this fall. It also, just like the cover, screams fall to me. So we'll get to that one. Okay, next is my stack of books that I've recently purchased, and I'll be sharing with you in recent purchases / unboxing that video. So this will be a little bit of a spoiler, but there's like 7 books here. So I have Fear the Flames, which is by Olivia Rose Darling. And Raven-Haired Reader is one of my absolute favorite booktubers, and she was raving about this book. She has so many great fantasy romance recommendations, or at least I think so, and I cannot wait to read this one. She said there's great found family in this book, which I personally love a found family, whether it be in just a romance, just whatever book it is. I love me a found family trope, so definitely excited to get around to reading that. I picked up a couple of thrillers just, you know, for thriller season. So I wanted to read this last year and I never got around to it. And now that it's in a paperback, I was like, I'm gonna pick this up. It's The House Across the Lake from Riley Sager. I do want to read a Riley Sager book. I never have in my life before. So I do want to I do want to do that. So hopefully I will this fall. Then I also have this one. This is More Than You'll Ever Know. I just saw this on a table at Barnes & Noble and it looked super interesting. It's set in 1985, Mexico City. And I think it's about this girl who's like already married, but then she has like this side thing. It just sounded really, really interesting. So I'm super excited to read that. I also have Dance of Thieves. I just really loved this cover, and I was sort of perusing the fantasy section in Barnes & Noble, trying to figure out, you know, what fantasy books I wanted to dip my toes into. And so I decided to pick this one up. I feel like I've heard good things about this series, I hope. And then I have two other recommendations from Rachel from Raven-Haired Reader. I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I believe when Rachel was talking about this, she said it's like pretty gothic and kind of dark. So I feel like the atmosphere will be really good for the fall time. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there is a second book to this coming out in the fall. I could be confusing some books, but I'm just excited to give fantasy more of a try, and just kind of like dip my toes into all areas of fantasy. So if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. But then I also picked up Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I feel like I've heard nothing but really great things about this book, so I'm super excited to get into this series as well. I want to say this might be a trilogy. I believe it's a trilogy, so very excited about this one. I would love to read this one in September. This is one of the ones I'm most excited for, so you guys will have to let me know if you read this one and if it should be one of the first ones I pick up in September. Okay, I have another large stack in front of me. A lot of these I've owned since last year, but a few of them have like trickled into my collection this year. I have The Confidence of Wildflowers, which I believe I purchased about a year ago, and I was really excited. Ooh, now that I'm looking at this, this has like really large font, which we love a large font. I was really excited to read this, but then I've heard like really mixed things about this book, and I've heard like a lot of people love this book, but the last 10% like is shocking and heartbreaking. And I believe cancer is involved, which like I don't know if that's just gonna be like a trigger and too traumatic for me, so I have put off picking this book up. But I also feel like this cover is giving me fall feels, so maybe I should put that on my fall TBR cart. I have X's and O's by Amy Lee. I purchased this around Valentine's Day this past year and just have not gotten around to picking this up. I don't feel super motivated to picking this one up anytime soon, but maybe next Valentine's Day. I also have Good Girl, Bad Blood. I read the first book in this series earlier this year, and I picked up the second book, but I have not yet gotten around to reading it. But I do feel like we could be heading into a great season for me to give this, I don't want to say a shot, like I feel like I'll like it, but just to actually pick this one up. Then I have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I can't remember if I purchased this at the end of last year or beginning of this year. I have not yet read an Abby Jimenez book, but I really want to, especially I'm very interested in the book that she most recently released as well, but I feel like I should read this and then pick that book up. Like I really should get around to reading this first. So I'm super excited to hopefully pick this one up. I could see myself reading this before the end of the year. Like I'm like not feeling romances right now, but I do know like I'm obviously gonna read more romances before the end of the year. A couple more thrillers. I have Death of a Dancing Queen, which just sounds like a really fun book. I actually do want to read this one relatively soon. This is just like, I haven't heard anything about this book, but I saw it on the shelves at Barnes & Noble, and my daughter's like all about me reading thriller books. Like she's all about the like terrifying terrors and she helped me pick this book out. So I do want to get around to reading that one this fall. And then I also have The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, so I definitely want to read this one this fall as well. Plus, I feel like this could be a really, really quick read. Like, this looks like it could be, like, it's like smaller, it's large print. Like, I feel like this one could go really quickly. So I do plan to read that before the end of the year. And one more thriller I have is I have My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I believe this is like about a husband and a wife who, in order to like spice up their marriage, they like lure people home with them and then murder them like on the weekends. Like, it's like a hobby. Terrifying, but that is also on my physical TBR. Another Lucy Score book I have, By a Thread, and I have picked this up and I read like, oh, I do still have a bookmark in here. It looks like I've read 6 pages. I feel like I've gotten to page 18 as well. Like, I feel like I picked this up a couple of times, and it wasn't that I didn't like it. I just like was not feeling motivated to read a over 500 page book at the time. So I kept putting it down, and it's still on my physical TBR. The premise of this book, like, this book sounds really fun. It's, I believe, Grumpy Sunshine, or at least like the guy is grumpy, maybe enemies to lovers. He gets her fired from like a pizza shop, and then she goes to work for his mom at like a fashion place in New York. It's set in New York City. It sounds really fun. I need to get around to this one. I don't know that that'll happen this year though. 500-page romance, like, no. I'd rather finish Calloway Sisters series, this Calloway Sisters Addicted series, if I'm reading 500 plus pages. Or fantasy. Another book that I did a soft DNF to this about a year ago though, so it's been a minute. I got to page 103. This is The Intimacy Experiment, and this is book 2, or like a standalone, like, what do they call that? Interconnected standalone? Is that what they call it? Do I still have the book? Maybe I don't. Okay, don't think I still have the book, but hopefully I can figure out, yeah, I can post a picture over here. I can see the cover, it's like pink, and I liked that book. I just knew that I wouldn't end up rereading it, so I did end up like decluttering or unhauling that book, if you will. And I picked this up right after I read that book because I was interested just in continuing on, and I've just found the characters in this book a little bit more boring, and I just like could not get into their story as much. I would like to like return back and actually finish this, but I don't see that happening this year, to be honest with you, but we'll see. Another book that I like started but didn't get very far. This is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I got to page 36 in this book. This is small town hockey. Something tragic happens. I believe there's 3 books in this series, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, this is third person, which I already struggled to read third person, but then there were so many different perspectives that are getting thrown at you so early on in this book, and I was just a little bit confused. Do I think I'll return back to this? Yes, I should this winter time, because this is like giving like the winter setting, but it was just a lot. Like, I couldn't get into it at the time, and a lot of people rave about this book. It gets really high reviews. I just couldn't get into it. Then from K.A. Tucker, I have Say You Still Love Me. I haven't read anything by K.A. Tucker, but I do have one other book, I believe, on my last shelf to share with you guys by her. I think this is a standalone, and the other book I have is part of one of the series she has. I have no idea what this book is about, but this also kind of, even though there's like a lake, it's kind of given me like end of August, beginning of September sort of feeling. So maybe I should pick this up and read this one soon. Okay, then I have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I purchased this last year, like towards the end of last year. I went on a like book buying spree, if you will, purchasing a bunch of books that I felt like were outside of my comfort zone, this being one of them, and I just have not felt motivated to reach for this. I don't really know why. It just like doesn't sound like it's out of my comfort zone. It's not like a romance, so I haven't felt motivated to reach for it. However, I've been feeling less and less motivated to reach for romances, so perhaps I should give that one a try before the end of the year. I also have King of Wrath by Anna Huang. I was so excited to read Anna Huang's writing, and then I read the first book, Twisted Love, in the Twisted series, and I feel like I had heard nothing but great things about that series, so I was so excited for it, and I really did not enjoy Twisted Love to the point where like I did not want to continue on in the series, and I didn't, and I still don't think I'll pick that series back up. So it's kind of like put me off from starting The King of Wrath. I believe this is going to be a 7-book series, and I want to say this might be like mafia romance, like enemies to lovers sort of situation, like possibly giving me Sophie Lark Brutal Prince vibes. I could be very wrong, but there's just something about the way that a lot of the moments in Twisted Love I found so cringy that it's just put me off from reading this. So we'll see if I pick this up this fall. It does kind of like make me feel like I could read it in the fall, but we'll see. One book I do want to pick up, but there's one other book by this author I want to read before picking this up, is Be Still My Heart. This is by Emily McIntyre and Sav R. Miller. I do have the 5th book in the Never After series by Emily McIntyre, which I will be opening in my book mail. It's somewhere in there. What is that one? It's the one about the Notre Dame. Anyway, I want to read that book, but I do want to get around to reading this. This is about, I think like there's a mystery within this one. Yeah, there's an investigation. There's a grumpy ex-Navy SEAL, a lobstering business. When I purchased this, the description was kind of giving me the same vibes as Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton, which I don't know if they're literally the same at all, but I am obsessed with that book. I want to reread that book. So I picked this up. I just haven't gotten around to reading it. I do think that Emily McIntyre writes a phenomenal spicy scene, so I feel like mixed with like the mystery aspect, I could really get down with this book. I should put this on my fall TBR. I really should, because there's a mystery aspect to it. I feel like we're gonna get around to that one soon. And then the last one in this stack before we go over to my last shelf of TBR books is Credence by Penelope Douglas. This is taboo romance. And I do want to read this. I just feel like I've heard that like this is like a 2-star read with like good spice, and I'm like, ugh, am I gonna be able to even get through this? Especially because even like the romances I've been trying to read lately, like I will like skim the spice scenes. Like I'm just so disinterested in my romances lately. So I need to figure out what's going on. I need to figure out what I need to pick up and read that's gonna get me out of this like slump. But I'm just fearful that this is gonna take me forever and a day to read, and so I haven't picked this up. I was so excited to buy this, and then it has literally sat on my shelf for a year. So this is still on the TBR. But again, the like cover is kind of giving me like fall or winter atmospheric vibes. So like maybe if this fits, it'll end up on my fall TBR cart. Okay, you guys, and then this last shelf, the bottom shelf of my bookshelf, most of my bookshelf is now makeup, but the last shelf is also for TBR books. And I know the lighting isn't as good, and I know the angle isn't as good, but I'm too lazy to like do a whole setup here. So we're gonna quickly go through these. A lot of these have been in my collection for a long time. So I have Cackle and Payback's a Witch. I purchased both of these around October last year when I was feeling like I needed these October inspired books, like witchy books, which maybe I'll end up doing a reading vlog for that. But I read 1 or 2 like witchy books last year, and they were just like 3-star reads, and I wasn't excited about them, and I just want to read all the 5-star reads. So I still have those. I have The Starless Sea by Erin Morganson. I feel the same way about this book as I do the Cerulean Sea book, The House on the Cerulean Sea. I don't really know what this book is about, and I've been really hesitant to pick this up, even though I've heard nothing but good things. And I loved The Night Circus back in the day. In fact, I want to repurchase Night Circus and read it again, because I could not tell you what the book was about, but I remember reading that book way back in the day and just feeling like it was the best book ever. So I want to read it again and see if I still have like the same feelings, but still this is still on my TBR. Then I have, speaking of like fall books, I have The Lost Apothecary. Why can't I never say this word? Apothecary. I don't know. I just have not, like I was so excited to purchase this, have not felt excited to pick this up. Okay, I changed the camera angle a little bit so it didn't feel as weird, but I don't know if this is better or worse. Anyway, next up I have If He Had Been With Me. I kind of wish I didn't buy this book because I'm trying to think if there's a book that's made me cry since like I picked reading back up, and I can't really come up with a book that has made me cry, although I do feel like my emotions are just so closed off. So like a part of me is interested in seeing if this book would make me cry, but then the other part of me is like, I don't want to be so emotionally devastated by a book. Why would I put myself through that pain? I just hit myself in the face. So I don't know, like a part of me, I'm like, why did I buy this? Why did I buy this? I bought it and I haven't read it. I have the book Velvet Was the Night. I purchased this again kind of fall time last year. I tried to pick this up at one point last year and I think I got about 20 pages in. First of all, the font is like so small, and second of all, I just like, I was confused reading this and just could not get into it. It was just not the right time for me to read it. I was very confused, not excited about it. So I also still have that on the TBR. This book I have owned for multiple years. It's The Rules of Magic, and I keep thinking like I want to just like unhaul this, or yeah, unhaul, but then like I'll read the back and I'm like, oh, this actually could be really fun. It's about magic, and I think there's a New York City setting, so perhaps I need to just, I feel like I've also heard nothing but great things about this book. It's a New York Times bestseller. Like maybe I just need to give it a try this fall, but that's still on the list. I also have If We Were Villains. I picked this up last year when I did the haul about books out of my comfort zone. Haven't picked this up, although now that I am starting to dip my toes in something other than fantasy, I am really excited to read this one. And same thing goes with Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I'm really excited to read this book this fall. Again, picked it up last year in the books outside of my comfort zone. Didn't get around to reading it, but you know, now I'm finally ready to read books other than just romance. Okay, I have Kingdom of the Wicked, which I thought I was so excited to pick up and read. Never got around to reading it last year. I feel like I thought this was going to be a 5-star, but I feel like most people that read this end up rating it just like a 3-star. So it kind of just like makes me nervous that I'm going to be bored, and so that's why I haven't picked it up yet. But this is a trilogy as well, so it does look like it could be a quick read. I don't know. We'll see if I get around to reading that. I also have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I picked this up last year when I heard so many people talking about like dark academia and specifically raving about this book. Again, it was outside of my comfort zone, so I haven't picked this up yet, but this is something I'm hoping to read this fall as well. I have the book Rules of Civility, which I picked up before I even really got into reading last year. And I think this is more like historical fiction. Yeah, it's on the last night of 1937. Like I'm not a historical fiction type of a gal. So I don't know that I'm gonna love this, but it's also a New York setting. And I do love a New York City setting. So we'll see. We'll see. That's been on the TBR for a while. Back here, I've owned this book for a while. I used to be a lot more into like memoirs, biographies, and I've just been more of fiction galley lately. But I have Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. This is the creator of Nike, so maybe someday I'll read that. I have A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I do plan to finally get into this series this fall. Super excited about that. And then I have this book, Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. Just kind of looks like a romance, like a, you know, typical romance maybe. I'm not sure. This has been, I think I purchased this maybe last fall as well, so it's been on the TBR for quite some time and I have not yet picked that up. I also have Caraval, which people were saying, I want to say this gave like kind of Night Circus vibes, which made me intrigued, but I also feel like most people just rate this 3 stars, which is again kind of put me off to picking it up. I have Dark and Shallow Lies, which I picked up last fall time because it was buy one get one half off at Barnes & Noble. I saw it sitting on like a table and I was like, oh, I should read this. And then I just haven't been motivated to pick it up because I feel like I purchased this because it was on a table, not necessarily because I was like excited about it. I've heard like nothing about this. So we'll see if I end up reading that this year. I could see myself not. I have a couple of Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist books and I've been hesitant to pick these up because I feel like the 1 or 2 books that I've read off of her backlist, I've rated only a 3 stars. So I'm worried I'm gonna feel the same way about these 2. I can't wait for her to come out with a new book, but I was just like stalking her Instagram and I don't know if it's gonna be anytime soon, which makes me so sad. But I have After I Do as well as Maybe in Another Life. Here's the other K.A. Tucker book that I have. This is The Simple Wild, which I believe is a trilogy, I think. I don't know if they're like standalone or if they all read in a series, but I feel like I had heard good things about this at one point in time, but I also think this has to do with like her dad being sick, which I thought could potentially be triggering to me, so it's kind of put me off from picking it up. I have the Six of Crows, which I've been nervous to pick up because again, this is outside of my comfort zone, but I've heard nothing but good things about this, so I really do just actually need to read this one this fall. I do plan to do that and then hopefully read the second book as well because it is a duology. Okay, then I have Dial A for Aunties, which I picked up after reading the first Finley Donovan book because I wanted like another cozy mystery. So I'm really excited to read this. I think it has to do with, oh yeah, someone ends up accidentally killing her blind date, and then I think she has to call like her mom, her aunts to come like help hide the body. I could be very wrong, but I'm excited about just like a fun little mystery, something like that. I do have the other 3 books in the off-campus series. I have The Mistake, The Score, and The Goal. I picked up The Deal and I really enjoyed that book, and so then I picked up the other 3 and literally have not been excited to pick them up and read them like at all. So that's annoying. Back here I have a couple more, like back here is where I kind of tuck away like my memoirs and autobiographies that I just don't see myself reaching for unless I'm really in the mood. So I have Stories to Tell by Richard Marx. I also have Acid for the Children, which I do want to read. I've heard such good things about that, but it's still going to stay back there. I also have The Speed of Trust, which I'm reading for work. I have Lifespan by David A. Sinclair. Okay, and then I just have a large stack of hardcovers to finish it off with. So I have Reputation by Sarah Vaughan, which I picked this up again before I got into reading, and this was kind of giving me like, oh my gosh, what is the show that I used to watch? It had Olivia Pope in it, and oh, what show was that? She would like solve mysteries and eat popcorn and drink wine. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It was giving me those vibes, so I picked this up and haven't picked it up since. I also have Guilt by Jamie Brenner. I purchased this after hearing Samantha March talk about this. This is about a diamond empire and it sounded like a really fun book. I just, again, haven't picked it up. I also have Did You Hear About Kitty Carr, which I really do want to read because I've heard if you like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you will really enjoy this book. So I do want to pick that up before the year ends. I also have The Bodyguard. Everybody was raving about this last year and I do really want to read this, but haven't gotten around to it. I have the book Really Good, actually, by Monica Heisey. I've only heard a couple people talk about this, but it is about a girl who either is like recently divorced or recently out of like a long-term relationship. And I've mentioned this on my channel, but things that have to do with divorce are more like intriguing to me as I'm going through my own journey with that. So I've been definitely interested in just like storylines like that. I have The Reunion, which I've heard just like reads like you're actually watching a reality TV show reunion, which, girl, I love me some reality TV, and especially The Reunion. So I was excited about that. I also have Georgie All Along. No idea what this is about. Just like picked it as my book of the month book. And obviously haven't been very motivated to pick it up since that's arrived. And then the last 2 books I have are also book of the month books. So I have The Family Game, which I believe is a thriller. And I do want to get around to this one again this fall. This has been on my TBR for a month or for a year at this point in time. And then I also picked up Babel by R.F. Wong. Again, the dark academia intrigued me, but I feel like this book is like just, I'm not smart enough to read this, and it's definitely long, so I feel like I need to be in the mood. Will I be in the mood this fall? I'm honestly not sure. It's possible, but I feel like I'm just very intimidated by this book. But after that, you guys, with the exception of the books that I need to unbox, those are all of the books on my current physical TBR. Maybe I'll come on next year about the same time and see what we have going on the physical TBR at that time. Hopefully we have not crossed 100. Hopefully we go down. Like, I should actually count and really try and like decrease before the end of the year. But that is gonna wrap it up. I would love to know in the comments below how many books are currently on your physical TBR. Let a girl know in the comments below. Other than that, you guys, thanks so much for sticking around to watch. Let me know your book recommendations down below, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.